So I've been keeping kind of a secret, and thought I'd just go ahead and spill the beans today because I guess I got caught on it. So I'm on house arrest. If you're going to be on house arrest, there's no better place than this to be on house arrest with. So I have to figure out how to provide enough electric for the monitor. So as you know, I got 1200 watts of solar panels, and I've got 2 charge controllers now. And so we've been running our freezer and the well pump off the solar panels, which is kind of a new development. We haven't been running the well pump off the solar panels the entire time we've been here. I did it a couple times just to make sure I could do it. Now that I've got this all rearranged and improved and modified and more efficient, I've ran the well pump off the solar panels every day, including yesterday. Yesterday it was really cloudy, but I was still able to do it. Unfortunately, I did have to run the generator yesterday for a few hours. We just didn't have enough sun, but that's going to happen no matter what we do. I mean, I've seen commenters say, "Oh, I got so many watts of solar panels and I can do it on a cloudy day." Well, that's not true. It's just not true. Your charge controller will not kick on unless in my case, my charge controller has to get up to 14 volts before the charge controller even kicks on. So, and it's got a little indicator on it. No yellow light means there's no sunlight. A yellow light means there's sunlight, but not enough. And a blinking yellow light means there's enough sun to charge the batteries. Occasionally you have to run the generator. I have 8 100 amp lead acid batteries. Well, that's not true. I have 7 100 amp, and the other one, the last one, is 75 amps. So I've got 775 amps is what I got in total. And I think I'm going to get another battery, maybe 2. I've got enough room in there for 2 before I got to start building shelves for batteries. But for the last several months, we've been well above minimum on the 12.3, well above that, 12.4, when I get up in the morning. So we've got ample battery. Now in the wintertime, it's going to be more of a struggle for the monitor, because as the temperatures drop, your batteries become less efficient. All batteries. Lead acid, gel, lithium ion. Well, lithium ion you can't even charge below freezing. In the wintertime, I tend to run the generator a little bit more frequently than I do in the summertime, simply because of the inefficiency of the batteries. Now people will say, well, just get more batteries, get more batteries. Well, at some point you're like, is it even worth it? I mean, you spend maybe $3 a week on gasoline, and you spend $100 on a battery. So you could spend a lot of money on gasoline before you'd have to get a battery. And besides that, my electric bill is still a ton cheaper than anybody else's electric bill. So when we're looking at it, who cares? Now, of course, everybody's talking about SHTF. I mean, you can't have a conversation with solar panels unless somebody brings up SHTF. Stuff hits the fan. I won't need the freezer if stuff hits the fan. I'll just can all the meat. And so then we'll shut off the freezer, and then I won't need continuous electricity. I just need electricity for the well pump. And the well pump, even if I only had a week's worth of cloudiness and we got 1 day of sunshine, that would be enough to run the well pump to fill the water back up. Of course, if SHTF were to happen, you'd limit the amount of water you use. We kind of use it freely now, although we still use a lot less than the national average. And then we have the chickens. The chickens feed us about half of our food. We eat eggs every day, and we like to get more chickens. We try to get more chickens this year. We want 3 different age groups is what we want. It just hasn't worked out that way. We had a dog attack last Thanksgiving. So we got 16 chickens, and they're going to drop in egg production probably next year. But we will try to incubate some eggs next year. We were going to do it this year, but we had a rooster that broke his foot right before incubation season, springtime. So we had to get a new rooster. Well, we thought the rooster was a year old, but he wasn't. He was only about 6 months old when we got him, so he wasn't old enough to mate. So we'll just have to wait until next year. And then that'll give us 2 age groups. And then the next year we'll do a 3rd one, and then that means that we'll butcher these chickens that we have now. That'll give us a new flock, which will start producing in August. So you get them in June time frame, and by August they're producing eggs. Then the second oldest will stop producing eggs through the winter. So you want to make sure you got eggs through the winter. So that's why you rely on that first age group. And then the 3rd age group, they'll come around that all fall, and you'll butcher them that fall. Because as they produce less eggs, you're still feeding them the same amount of food. So you don't want to feed them if they're not producing enough. And then they provide you with chicken meat. Now we can all our chicken that we have butchered. And we also buy those 10-pound bags of chicken at Save A Lot. They're like, well, $10, somewhere around there for a bag of chicken. So we can that up, and of course we give a lot of that to Skitty, our cat. She pretty much only eats chicken now. We bought her some really expensive dry food in case she wanted it, but we didn't want to give her a bunch of carbs and junk, but now she's just eating chicken. We give her some snacks. She's so much like a dog. I'm getting off subject a little bit, but the other day we opened up some dehydrated meat, beef jerky basically, and she recognizes the sound of the package, especially with her treats, and she starts salivating like a dog. I've never seen a cat do that. But if you know, you got to be on house arrest, this is the place to do it. It is really a nice place. We've been here 3 years and we've not taken a vacation. We've not went anywhere other than shopping or somewhere. We've not went and visited any family. And remember, we were nomads, so we traveled quite a bit prior to this. I don't know, maybe we're burned out on traveling. I mean, I still like to go down to Florida. Dad lives down in Florida, and it's just a beautiful area down there. Dad comes up here he came up here twice so far in the 3 years we've been here. It's not like that we're missing out on visiting with him, but I sure like his area. He lives just a quarter mile from the Gulf Coast. You can walk down to it in 5 minutes. It's beautiful. And so we stayed there quite a few times when we were traveling. When someone burned down our pop-up camper, we stayed there and built the truck camper. And then we went back, I guess, next year and put some coroplast over the truck camper, kind of give it some sort of siding. And then I helped him put up a roof on his house. So we stayed there a couple months over a few year period, but we haven't went anywhere. So someone said today in my comic session that this is a miserable life. There's just no way anybody, and I shouldn't be encouraging anybody to do this. First of all, I admit that I am not a big people person, so being here is kind of refreshing to me. He went on the assumption that everybody has to have human interaction. Well, I know from my comment section that's not true. There's just people that don't get that. You know, introverts, we tend to think, yeah, if you want to be an extrovert, that's fine, we understand that. But if you're an extrovert, they do not understand why you'd want to be an introvert. But in the comment section, I know I got lots of introverts. But he went on the assumption that introverts is a sickness, it's an illness, and that I am ill, and I have every right to be ill. I'm not harming anybody. He admitted that. I mean, he wasn't trying to be overly rude. He just doesn't understand half the population. If I want to be mentally ill on my property, not hurt anybody, there's no problem with that. But what I am doing by teaching this lifestyle, I am hurting people. I'm not giving them all the information they need to make an informed decision about living here. So he has said that we have trapped ourselves here. We cannot take a vacation with the way we've established our life. It's like being on house arrest, except you did it to yourself. He started out with chickens. And he said that, you know, you're gonna have to feed the chickens all the time. What are you gonna do with the chickens if you ever have to go anywhere? What if you have a death in the family and you gotta leave? What are you gonna do? You're not thinking this through. Well, actually I have thought it through. First of all, a lot of people go on vacation and they don't take their pets. What do they do with their pets? Well, they put it in a kennel maybe, or they hire a kid to come over and feed it. I mean, I watched a video from a cat expert. He used to be on a cable channel, but now he's on YouTube. And he said, what you do is you have a friend come over on a regular schedule, a couple times a day, whatever, for a cat, so they know that there's still human interaction. Cats don't need a lot of interaction, but they do need interaction. And you feed them and you pet them and you play with them for a few minutes, then you leave and come back later. So we have Skitty, and Skitty is not going to get in a car and go on a road trip. She is going to have to be left here. And it is quite unlikely that she'd be very happy in a kennel either. The cat has learned how to get out of the house. She can open the screen door by herself, and it's almost a game for her now. She'll be out on the porch, I'm out on the porch, I'll come in, she'll come running in, and as soon as I sit down in the house, she'll turn around and open that screen door and walk out. she didn't want to come in, she just wanted to open the door. So she likes being outside. So if I put her in a kennel and she's not gonna be outside, it's gonna be miserable for her. So I wouldn't do that to her anyways. So you hire someone to come and visit the cat. And now the chickens are not hard. When we were wanting to be nomads, started out, we got to the pop-up camper, we went on a 3-week test run. Well, we had chickens. And it was a big struggle on how we were gonna do it, but ended up, we just put I don't know, maybe a 50-gallon bag of food out there for them. And a big tub of, maybe 2 tubs. I mean, we got 5-gallon buckets of water with little feeders on them. We could get 2 or 3 of those buckets, fill them up, there'd be 15 gallons of water. So we were gone 3 weeks and the chickens were totally fine on our test run when we were wanting to be nomads. So the chickens are not a big deal. They take care of themselves. They put themselves to bed at night. Now, with the setup we got, I would be a little bit concerned, just a little, that something could get into the chicken run and into the chicken coop, because each night I close the door on the chicken coop. That way nothing can get in there. They might be able to get in the chicken run, but they wouldn't be able to do both. So even if I just decided, well, I don't want anybody feeding the chickens, I'll take care of that, and I gave them a big bag of food and a big, several buckets of water, I might have somebody come over and just close that door for me. That's no big deal. Come in about 8:30 at night and close the door, and then get up in the morning. Unfortunately, in the summertime, they would have to get here kind of early. They would have to get up about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, maybe, come over and open it up. But if you're paying someone, I'm sure they could do it. Otherwise, we just leave it open. I might do a test run on that before we left to see if there's any predator animals that would want to get in there. We've had one possum in the whole time we've been here get over the chicken run, but he didn't mess with the chickens. Once the chickens resisted, he left. He only got in there to eat the food, so it wasn't even that big of a deal. Like I said, he tried to get it. We saw him try to get one chicken, but the chicken resisted, and it was a small chicken. It wasn't even a fully developed chicken yet. It was still a chick. So once it resisted, it let go. Possums don't want to fight. Raccoons will fight, but possums don't want to fight. And then we got the problem with the solar panels. And he went into great detail about the solar panels, that you really do have to monitor solar panels. In our case, our biggest electric consumer is the freezer. When I go to bed, I want the batteries to be about 12.7 volts. That way, overnight, it can drop down to 12.3 volts, which is 50%, and I've not damaged the batteries. I've got enough batteries now, especially in the summertime, to accomplish that. In the wintertime, I don't. I always charge the batteries for a couple hours before I go to bed on those cold nights. Now, if we're on vacation, I wouldn't be running the well, so the only thing we would be running is the freezer. So you could do it a couple ways. You could wait to take your vacation on a summer week or two. If you can predict the weather well enough that it's not cloudy, you would know with confidence that you've got plenty of battery every night to run the freezer. But like this year, we've all of a sudden hit this cloudy season, and it could be a problem. So if all of a sudden I got called away on a family death or emergency, I would have to have someone come over. I could teach you, even a 10-year-old kid, how to do this. You start the generator. First thing you would do is just put a half a gallon of gas in the generator. Maybe not even that much. So fill it up about half full. Start the generator and start the battery charger. Well, in the middle of the night, the generator is going to die. It'll only run for about 4 hours. Even if they didn't need to be charged, I don't need to teach them what charged is or anything. I just need the batteries to be maintained every day. It would cost a little extra money to run the generator that much, but you figure I've got 10 gallons of gas. I'm only using a half a gallon a day. That's 20 days. That should get me a nice little vacation. I got a battery charger. That's all he's got to do is, well, he wouldn't even have to necessarily hit the button. I think that battery charger will turn on automatically if it's hooked up to the batteries within like a minute. So if you don't want to do anything, it's going to turn on its own. That's all you got to do is turn on the generator and plug it in. It would not be a big deal. So you pay a kid $20 a week, or I don't know how much, whatever you negotiate, you could easily take care of this problem. But let's talk about the freezer. If I really was concerned about the batteries and I didn't want to run the generator at night, all I'd do is shut off the freezer. So we could like empty the freezer, not go to shopping. I think we have about 3 months worth of food in the freezer. So we just wouldn't go shopping for a while. run the freezer down, and then shut it off when we want to go on vacation. Another thing we could do is just start canning the food. I don't know if we'd do that. Instead of hiring someone to monitor, that's what I was saying, monitor the solar panels, all I need to do is just shut off the freezer. It's not a big deal. Now, the last thing I would probably do is I would probably put bleach in our water. We used to do that all the time. We used to bleach our water every time I filled it. And you can get information from, I think, the FDA's website on how to do that. But I put bleach in there just so it wouldn't stagnate while we were gone. So no, I'm not on house arrest. We stay here because we choose to, not because we have to. So if you'll click this up next box, take to a video where I was talking about some folks I met online. They're doing this just like me. So I hope I can inspire you to not be afraid of living off grid so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.